Okay, everyone. Well, thank you very much for joining our online webinar tonight. My name's Alex Waite. I'm joined by Byron. I'm the creative lead here at the Academy, and Byron is one of our fantastic students from last year who is now working in industry. And it's always great to get some first-hand experience from, from a new student who's now working versus kind of just, people who've been in the industry for a long time. So this webinar tonight is called Choosing Your Specialisation. We're going to talk about what the different departments are, what they do, how to apply for them. This also applies for getting a job and what to use for your portfolio. And so we'll go through them tonight. There's quite a lot to go through tonight, by the way, and so we're going to move pretty quickly. But at the end, I'm going to show you a slide where you can download an info pack of everything that we've gone over tonight. So if you're madly taking notes, don't worry, you can go online and download an info pack and go through it at your own leisure. So we're all storytellers here. We do a lot of work with the Indigenous group here at UTS as well, and including some past projects. We like to be involved with story, and in doing so, we like to acknowledge the original storytellers of this nation, the Eora Nation, on whose lands UTS currently now stands. So that's me, creative lead. Byron Boyd Morgan is a lighting TA, not at ILM, we've just discovered at Netflix. And Byron actually came and joined us last year to work on the project last year in the modelling department. Is that right, Byron?
Yes, modelling department.
Fantastic. I mean, we'll talk about how that happened in a bit,
Yeah.
I think. So who are we? We're a collaboration between UTS and Netflix Animation Studios, previously Animal Logic Studios. And what we try to do is address the gap between education and industry, because a lot of juniors out there who finish education find it difficult to get a job in industry, or if they get a job in industry, they struggle because there's all these unspoken rules about what to do and how to do it when you get a job. And we can all learn to use the tools and use the software, but applying that in a professional environment is a very different skill set. And it was discovered that no one's actually teaching what that skill set is. So that's what we do. And we do that by teaching a one-year immersive master's degree. We call it immersive because what we do is we teach by doing. So we run our course like it's industry by giving our students a studio experience. So there's no classes, no lectures, no homework. It's basically like a job. So you learn by being part of the pipeline and, working basically like a professional artist. So we do that by, that's exactly what I just said here. We put students in an industry immersive studio environment. And then we run through two high-end films throughout the year. So I'll just go to the next one. I just found that actually. So the two films we do, one is runs on an animated feature pipeline, and the other one is a VFX component in the middle of the year, because we've heard from industry that there's quite a lot of VFX studios here in Sydney, and a lot of them want students with VFX experience. So we've pivoted our Studio 2, the middle of the year studio, to be a VFX component. All of our leads, myself included, and Rowan and Raf and the other people who work here come from industry. That's a big part of what makes this course unique, is that you're taught by industry professionals. These are some of the projects we've worked on in the past, and we bring this experience and these contacts to the course experience. Throughout the year, we get industry speakers to come and talk to the students, generally around 40 to 44 per year. It's pretty fun. And they come in and do masterclasses and talks about pretty much every department and part of the process throughout the whole year. So we maintain that connection with industry. It's great for recruitment drives. It's great for making connections. It's a really fun part of the whole course. So just a quick note of how we last year, talking ourselves up, we did very well, production excellence and visual effects and best production excellence at the rookies. Alone, our big project went on to show at 20, I think a bit more actually, 20 festivals around the world. Skate Big VFX show won gold at the AEAF, and Onico won silver at the same awards as well. It was pretty good. And every year we try and get our films out there in order to get them seen and shown by by other studios. So I'm going to play our show reel, but unfortunately, it seems like the audio isn't coming through. So I can talk about a few things as it plays. Enjoy. What I love about these projects is that when our students finish the year and they have some of these shots on their reel looks like they've got sort of professional looking high end shots on the reel, which kind of gets them to stand above and beyond the other juniors out there in industry because some of these pieces of work look absolutely fantastic, and it can really make their reels look like a professional production. Each one of these projects, these films, generally goes for about 5 minutes or so. We keep it that length so we can increase the quality of the work. The VFX shorts are generally shorter, but the animated feature shorts are in that sort of 5 minute mark. Okay, so we break our year up into three trimesters. We call them studios, Studio 1, 2, and 3. Basically, Studio 1 is pre-production on the main film. Studio 2 is the VFX short film, which goes for 10 weeks. And Studio 3 is production on the main film, where we finish the production and get that done. So our year is broken up like that. There's a 2-week gap in between each studio. And it's a pretty intense year. I mean, Byron, what was last year was occupational hazard, right? That you worked on?
Occupational hazard and Onico.
And Onico. I think this one, I've got that right here. Here we go. They were the two projects last year. And did you do modeling on both projects?
Yeah, I did modeling on both.
And I think, correct me, you on Onico, you mostly did environment modeling. Is that right?
Yeah, environment modeling on Onico. And I think I did a lot of layout for both films as well.
That's right. You did too. You did too. Yeah. Or assembly, right? Or
Yeah,
layout.
assembly,
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah.
Combo of both. Fantastic. Yeah, they were both great projects. You can see both of them online, by the way, everyone. If you go to our socials, you can see both projects on our YouTube. So, Byron, you studied at AIE.
Yep.
But you came in to join us in modelling. Did you specialize in modelling at AIE, or did you kind of have a bit more of a generalist sort of background?
I think when I did AIE, the first year was generalist, and then the second year they asked you to focus on something, but you still had
Yep.
to do a lot of everything because it was a lot smaller. Like it wasn't a full suite of everyone can do every one specific department well, like how UTS is. It was more like
Yeah.
had to do
Yeah.
modeling and surfacing and a little bit of rigging and a little bit of comp and a little bit of like just to help out. But
Yeah. Great. Great. And then you also knew some Houdini as well. Is that right?
yeah, I did on the self-learning Fridays that we do here. I started picking up Houdini because I hadn't done Houdini before, so I
That's
used
right.
the Fridays to learn it.
And how much do you think Houdini helped you in the whole modeling process retrospectively? What do you reckon?
I don't think I got to use it at UTS very much. I got to
Yeah.
practice with it, but
Yeah.
I didn't get to apply it to the film. It was
Okay.
mostly just
Okay.
Maya. Yeah.
Mostly just Maya. Sure thing. And then you're now employed at Netflix,
Yep.
not ILM, at Netflix as a lighting TA. How did that happen? How did that go from, you specializing in modeling to ending up in lighting?
So I like to think I was a bit of a um, yes man when I was at UTS. Like you'd ask me to do something, and even if it wasn't modeling, I was like, "Yep, I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it." And ended up Ross got reached out to about Netflix having lighting TAs. Ross was one of the teachers here last year, and he said, "You're a pretty good problem solver. You should
Yep.
apply." So I was like, "All right, I'll give it a go," and then I got the job. So
Well done. Well done. That's awesome. And do you enjoy it? You like it?
yeah, no, it's great. I'm definitely like a problem solving is one of the things I enjoy. That's why I liked learning
Mhm.
Houdini on the side, why I
Yeah.
liked doing all the other stuff that I did at UTS. It's just like a lot more of that, like trial and error, going through documentation, reading up how our pipeline works, and then figuring out how to fix the holes. Well, on in lighting.
Well done. That's great. I mean, we had we actually got a request a year ago from a supervisor at ILM for a student, and we asked what department did they want the student in, and they said they don't care. They just wanted a problem solver. So being good at solving problems is like a very hireable skill, I'd say. Um, just a quick note to everyone out there, you can ask questions in the chat. We do have some staff members. Their cameras are off, but they're available. They can answer questions for you in the chat, or at the end of this presentation, I'll have a Q&A part where I'll go through some of the questions as well. All right, so what we're going to do is talk about the departments, what they are, what they specialize in, how they work, and we're going to be sort of looking a lot at Onico, last year's project at demonstrating each one of these departments. For Onico, we had 36 students and 30 weeks of production. It's pretty amazing what we ended up with at the end. So these are our departments: art, Previz Layout, modeling, rigging, surfacing, 2 riggings for some reason, animation, effects, lighting, comp, production, and TDs. So we'll go through each one of them because there are actually more departments than that in this industry, but these are the sort of main ones and the entry points for juniors generally. So how are you going to choose one of these specializations? So when you come and join us, when you join our course, you have to choose one of them. You have to apply for our course in one of those departments. You can't just apply for our course and say, I'll move into one or the other when I get there. That's not how it works. It's like a job. You have to apply for a position in a department and tell us what you want to specialize in. So how do you choose it? After tonight, we've gone through the details. Maybe you can kind of go through this as well, but maybe you already know. But it helps if you ask yourself these 3 questions. What are you good at? Or do I have foundational knowledge in that area? Do I have a passion for that area? I think that's really important because industry and us will take, attitude over ability quite a lot of the time because that can be, the tools and the software can be taught, but good attitude can't. And your career. Think to yourself, what role do you see yourself in industry? If you want to be sort of like a CG soup and you're going down a different path, then maybe you should consider which path you want to go down to first at the beginning. Then make sure your application portfolio matches your chosen specialization. Please, if you're applying to be in animation, 3D animation, don't just send us a modeling reel. Make sure you're showing us things that apply for the department or specialization you're applying for. And the course info pack at the end has all that information. So we're going to start with production. So production is a fun department in that it is more about the people communication than it is about any technical or creative skills. This generally suits people who are people, who like helping people, who like supporting people, who like being a part of the industry, who love film, love animation, but maybe aren't sort of artistic or aren't kind of technically proficient enough to go into other areas, or they simply like being a part of the whole lot, the whole big picture. The fun thing about production is that it kind of, carries into every part of the industry, from VFX to animation to TVCs and so on. So there's different areas that you can go to in production, and there's almost no ceiling for production either. It's an endless kind of progression into becoming sort of like producers on big films or showrunners and so on. But for our case, what we need are people who are adept at communication, who have a good positive attitude, and who are good sort of organizers, who have a good ability at managing time and managing notes and skills. So really, it's people who are interested in helping people is really what we're looking for. What production is not is the boss. We often have people who want to go into production because they want to tell people what to do or how to do things. That is not what production is. It's about helping people achieve their goals. It's a great department, a lot of fun, but you have to want to kind of help people and organize people as well. So for your portfolio, a lot of it really comes down to the interview, but just show us anything that you have done in the past and maybe any sort of volunteer work you've done or any organizational work, maybe a job. Have you been a manager somewhere? Have you worked at another place where you've kind of worked with people, collaborated with people? All that kind of stuff really helps a lot. Now, production does do a lot of note-taking. Don't get me wrong, it's managing, it's sitting in meetings, sitting in reviews, taking notes, helping artists. This lovely, messy kind of detail thing you see in front of you is called shock grid, or now it's called flow production tracking, and it is the industry standard for tracking notes and assets and shots within industry. So production works primarily in here to make sure things are going, passing in between departments well, and tracking the notes as well. So a lot of these notes happen against every asset you can see. And so the artists at every time and every day can see what they're supposed to be working on and what the notes are that they've worked on as well. And if you don't like Excel or Google Sheets, then maybe production isn't for you either. But it does help those people who love to be organized. It works beautifully for me. I love it. If you've got a brain for it, it's great. If you don't, then you can just get lost in this kind of stuff. But I think it's fantastic. So people who love being neat and organized and like kind of working with people, production's for you. Art department. Okay, I'm sure most of you know what art department does, but in industry, there's quite a few other areas that art department cover. We'll go over them in a second, but first of all, if you want to apply for art department for us, what do you include? It's always great to see any traditional art you've done. If you come from a fine arts degree, that's great. Now, in the past, pretty much everyone in art department came from a fine arts degree, and nowadays we have more of a sort of digital upbringing. So not many people have gone through that sort of traditional art process, which means they have to catch up on the fundamentals. So it's great to see if you do have an understanding of form, of life drawing, of anatomy, of contrast, of color theory, those kind of things, 2 and 3 point perspective. That's great. But if you don't, that's okay, but you would have a lot to catch up on. So what I want to see is any traditional art you've done, any character art, any environment art, props, life drawing, and storyboard. So what's good to see really is variety. We often get a lot of portfolios of people who can do one thing really well, and then they fall apart if they have to draw, a background or a chair. So it's great to see a lot of different artistic styles. Please just, if you're doing characters, it has to be beyond anime manga style, because that is very easily templated. It's great to see characters that are in different body shapes and different styles, something that's very stylized, something that's very realistic. I just don't want to see a whole bunch of sort of anime characters pasted into a portfolio. So here's some examples. Storyboards, good to see. Here's some character work. These are other things that art department does for the modeling department. So you got Byron, when you were working on Oniko, I'm just going to go to this one here. You did a lot of these environments here. Is that right? Like these buildings here on the left?
Yeah, I did a lot of the buildings.
And so these were provided by Nia did these, I think, right?
Yeah, I know Nia did a lot of them.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if she did all of them, but I definitely got a lot of art from Nia.
Yeah. I mean, they're great. So really these drawings are provided for art departments so they know what to model, how to model them, from all different angles. They're called orthographics. It's a big part of what art department does. They also do color keys, layout, mud maps, we call them, texture and surfacing reference, doing everything for props as well. Again, orthographics for every prop needs to be drawn up, and every element that you see on screen has to have a design for it, so the modeling department knows what to model, what material it's made of as well, and so on. Previz and layout. I love these departments. It's a lot of fun. Previz is probably what I would say is the most generalized department in the animated feature pipeline, because you need to do a bit of everything in Previz. For those who don't know what Previz is, it's like a basic 3D animatic of the storyboards. The characters often move very simply, or what we call chess piecing, where they just slide around the scene. And it's a way of seeing, will the edit work in 3D, and giving us a sense of space and timing of the set and the assets as well. So we can push a camera through a 3D environment and start blocking things in really simply. So maybe a cube is a desk or a chair, a cylinder is a tree, But when it's that simple, we can move things around until we know where things are placed, and then we can start replacing them with proper modeling assets. So if you're interested in Previz, it really suits people who love storytelling. It suits people who like working fast and a bit messy. And it also suits people who like being sort of directors. You get involved in the story a bit. You get to sculpt and shape the film a bit in Previz. You've got quite a lot of freedom in Previz, which is a lot of fun. The other part of Previz is another department called Layout. Now, Layout has many different meanings in different companies, but what I'm going to use for today is the traditional 3D animated feature definition of layout, which is basically digital cinematography. So while Previz is sculpting the basic form of the film, and it's messy and it's a bit of everything, it's a lot of fun, people are throwing in sort of lights and everything, Layout only does camera. So the layout department will work later on in the pipeline, and they will lens per shot, not per scene, but per shot, and just do the camera and the lensing. It suits people like photography. It suits people like cinematography. There is a bit of storytelling and direction in there, but really that happens more in the previous stage. But it's a beautiful part of the process because you can really sculpt and shape the film through the lens. So if you're interested in Previz or Layout, what I'd love to see is a bit of everything that you can do. It is in Maya. That is the industry standard. So please show me what you can do in Maya. So a bit of modeling, maybe a bit of animation. And if you really want to push it, maybe copy a couple of shots from a film in 3D. It doesn't have to be good assets, but just mimicking what you can see in terms of what the camera is doing. Just 3 or 4 shots. That's all. Always great fun to do as practice. So here's what Previs does. Previs would build a set very simply like this, just so we've got some basic geometry down so we can start scouting the environment. Then you can see these assets here. They all look very simple and very blocky. So the one above here is Previs. The one below is Layout. Previs to Layout, Previs to Layout, Previs to Layout. So you can see how simple these shots are, but they still match exactly to the layout shots afterwards once we've replaced them with the real assets. So here's an example of a Previs shot. As you can see, the characters are just sliding along the ground. We've got our monster sliding, jumping after them. This was a fun sequence, actually. This was from a Fool's Gold project we did 2 years ago. So really, this is telling us how big we need this environment to be, how fast we need the characters to go, what we need to model, and so on. We realized very quickly that we're showing too much of the ceiling, so we tilted the camera down once we went into layout. So here's the layout of that last shot, following the same type of sequence. So now we've got some handheld effect in there. Our lens is longer, so we're not showing so much of the ceiling or the background, and we're focusing a lot more on the main characters. So the only thing that Layout did in this sequence is just the camera, nothing else. This is another layout shot from Oniko from last year as well. Okay, modeling. Modeling, I'm sure you all know what modeling does. Modeling is done primarily in Maya. Once again, it's okay if you want to do work in Blender or ZBrush, but just know that the final product has to be in Maya. One thing to know that in modeling in industry, especially for the animated feature industry, is that all models need to be sub-D'd. So that means, for those of you who know, if you create a cube and you hit 3 on your keyboard in Maya, or you smooth it, it becomes a ball, a sphere, right? So what we have to do is make sure that objects retain their shape when they get smooth, because everything that passes through the pipeline, generally, if it's say Katana or RenderMan, it gets smoothed automatically. So we have to add those extra edge loops to the corners and edges, so they maintain that shape. So Byron, do you remember what you included on your portfolio when you applied for modeling?
Yeah, I had. I don't think I had any characters because I didn't want to be a character modeler, but I know I had a lot of props.
That's right.
I think I had a motorbike on there.
Mm-hmm.
I had some environments on there that I made. And I think I had a handful of props. But
That's right. I think the motorbike you presented was fantastic. That pretty much kind of got you in.
Mm.
one hard surface object. And yeah, so if anyone wants to apply for modeling, again, what we'd like to see is variety. So if you can do a hard surface object like a motorbike or a chair, and then an organic thing or just something, a few different things is great. But here's the important thing to remember. And by the way, this applies for if you want to get a job in industry, the same rule applies. Don't worry too much about surfacing, lighting, rendering it. Okay, that's not really what we care about. It's not what industry cares about. What we care about is the topology. That's really what it comes down to. So a screenshot of your model with wireframe turned on is perfect. So let me show you some examples. So here are some models from Onico from last year. They turned out really well, hey Byron, these models. They just did such a good
Yeah, no.
they're just beautiful. And these are smooth, by the way, everyone, so they are sub-D'd. So here's an example. Generally in industry, yes, again, you'll get the image on the left from art department, do a basic model. But what we want to see is this one on the right, the topology. Okay, we want to see how you've laid out your topology, how clean is it, isn't going to cause any render issues. Again, showing us a variety of what you can do is good, but again, this is what we want to see. Okay, so if it is this dense like the one in the bottom middle, get in a bit closer. But like this pillar on the far left, that's perfect because it shows us that you understand topology, you understand keeping it clean where it needs to be clean, and also maintaining shape so it works for a sub-D as well. This is really the most important thing when sort of showing stuff for modeling, is just show us the topology. If you do want to also include surfacing on your reel because you want to do modeling and surfacing, that's fine. Those two kind of departments do work well together, but please make sure you're showing us topo as well. Actually, just going back, Byron, any other tips on modeling stuff? Because you mostly did environmental modeling a lot, didn't you?
Yeah, I wanted to do hard surface and environments. So I think that's what I applied with in my reel as well. I had a lot of hard surface, like the motorbike, but then I think I had like some swords and like a radio, something like that. And then I think I had 2 environments.
That's right. And were they all in Maya, or did you have any Blender stuff there as well?
I think everything I showed was in Maya, but I was learning Blender at the same time as well.
Okay. Yeah, great. I mean, look, we're happy to see stuff in Blender as well, everyone, but just please make sure that you can still work in Maya as well, because that is what you'll be, using in industry. So, okay to have different software there because the skills are transferable, but you will need to move in Maya.
Topology will be the same in both.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, surfacing. Lead straight on. We do like to have our modelers do some surfacing and our surfacers to know a bit about modeling, simply because those two departments work so closely together. If you're a modeler, you really need to know how to lay out good UVs. And if you're UVing an asset, it's good to know what's broken and what doesn't work well, so you can request that from the modeling department. Did you end up doing any surfacing on Onico?
I did a little bit at the very end, but not. I think I surfaced maybe like 3 or 4 things, but I was mostly on modeling.
I mean, that's all you need. We just want to make sure everyone's touched it a bit, just so, I mean, it helps, right? Understanding how to lay out UVs and everything. It's good. So if surfacing is taking those gray shaded models, these ones here, and putting color on them, so they look like they live and exist in our real world. They're not just gray. What to include in your portfolio is surfacing from any software. It doesn't matter. Again, hard surface or organic objects, realistic or stylized, a mix of object types. It can be on Mari, it can be on Substance. That doesn't matter. Blender even as well, or basic kind of Maya surfacing. What we're going to be looking at is your ability and skill to convey your intent. So is the object old? Is it new? Is it worn? Is it following? Is the scale correct? Is there a difference in roughness across the object? Is it shiny in some areas and matte in other areas, and so on? Because there's a lot that happens with the object when it goes through surfacing that is called environmental storytelling, and being able to do that within surfacing is a really good skill, and you're not just sort of like applying one classic shader to the object and moving on. There needs to be some storytelling in there as well. So we can teach you the software, but we do just want to see your skill set in what you can do. Again, don't worry too much about sort of, the environment and doing some big crazy thing. Showing individual objects doing a simple turntable is easy and more than enough. So in industry as well, you will be given some texture reference from art department. Then you're given this lovely gray shaded model, and then it's up to the artist to then transfer that and create that onto the 3D model Actually, I think, was this Substance? I think we did this in Substance. Oh, you wouldn't know, would you? Yeah, this was a
I
Substance.
wasn't on that one.
Yeah. Here's some of our assets from Onico. Again, it's great to see these nice and clear. If you are showing surfacing assets, it's good also to see some at nighttime, some at daytime, different lighting situations to see how the light plays on the object. And getting a turntable is good because then we can see how light plays across the object if there's any differences in roughness. For example, here's a character from the other year, and you can see as the character rotates, there are different areas that are rough and smooth and picking up different parts of the light as well, which tells us a lot about how the object was surfaced. Here's some other assets too. All props, everything in the film goes through this part of the process. We had a lot of fun in this project because we wanted to have everything give a little bit of a sort of hand-painted feel. So these two assets especially have that in the roughness pass. It turned out really well. Some more assets as well. Onico, we pushed that even further. So Full Sculpt was kind of like a test bed for that, and Onico, we really pushed the painterly kind of the painterly feel for it. Okay, rigging. Rigging is taking the 3D objects from modeling and putting controllers on them so the animation department can animate. This is done in Maya. Maya is still the industry standard for rigging and animation. But, look, I'm happy to see rigging in different software, but really it's very, very important for this department that you can rig in Maya, because that is what we'll be doing and we hit the ground running. Rigging's a nice mix between creative and technical, kind of like effects as well. I think it's got a good mix of the both. It suits people who like problem solving. There is a lot of problem solving in rigging because there's 100 different ways to rig any asset, and doing it in a way that's intuitive, that doesn't need an explanation book in order to teach animators how to use it is a real trick. And animators will break everything you give them. So creating a rig that is as unbreakable as possible is also another trick as well. And it's a lot of fun to go through this process. It's also really fun, like for anyone who's rigging characters, to understand anatomy and muscles and how they move and affect each other. Being an observer of sort of the real world is also important for rigging. Having an understanding of sort of weight and physics is good as well, same as animation. It's a really fun, creative, technical part of the process. If you want to apply as a rigger, yes, I'd like, it has to be in Maya, but you can give us a body rig, a face rig, a hand or a foot leg or a prop, something simple. Even just showing a hand that can deform and bend with simple, clean controls is great. It doesn't have to be a full human with every asset and part of it rigged up, because that can take a lot of time. It's quite complex. But just showing you've got a basic understanding of IK and FK, maybe a couple of blend shapes and deforming, skinning nicely, that would be great. There are certain different parts of the rigging pipeline. You have the deform rig, which is the bones that sit inside the model that deform and do the muscles. And then you have the control rig, which are the kind of the nerves curves on the outside of the rig that the animators use to animate to. So include anything you've rigged. A leg rig as well, like I said, a leg or a hand rig is easy, and you can send us a movie file of that rig moving, or you can send us the Maya file as well if you want. Don't worry, we don't share it with anyone. So here's an example of a combo of blend shapes and a muscle rig. These are the control rigs I was talking about. All of these kind of brightly colored curves and squares are what the animators will use to animate to. And these curves drive the deform rig underneath. So as long as these controls maintain the same position and name throughout the project, what they drive underneath can change, which is a really kind of fun part of the process because you can keep updating, making it better, changing the skinning, adding muscle systems and so on as you go. Rigging also helps out with Previs. We get simple rigs done for Previs at the beginning of the project so we can get through the previous process. This is usually done really roughly, a really hacky kind of rig, but another fun part of rigging is being in that pre-production process so we can test things. It's often a way of testing whether or not a character's arms or shoulders are in the right spot. Do we need to adjust things? And getting a quick rig on that character as quickly as possible helps us a lot. Rigging also gets involved in mocap. So our Studio 2 project, more often than not, is mocapped because it's a sprint. It's a 10-week sprint. So learning how to use and apply mocap on a mocap rig to a Maya character is a big part of it. It's something we do here every year. It's a lot of fun. And we use the data arena up the road as well for the mocap. We get the riggers involved with that too. There's also some components of the characters, say char effects, that we get that rigging has to be across as well, because not everything can be passed off to effects. We need the rig to be able to be adaptable to. Animation. Okay, are we going for time? No, we're going good. Okay, so animation, you get it. It's just making things move. It's bringing life to the characters. What do I want to see for an animated portfolio? Just the basics, please. Again, it doesn't have to be lit, doesn't have to be surface. I'm happy with a play blast from Maya. That's all it needs to be, okay? It's often sometimes hard to see animation if the camera's flying about the place and you're giving me your beautiful, amazing, award-winning film, which I'm sure is fantastic, but the animation sometimes is hidden in that. So do your film, but then please get another camera that's a bit further back so I can see your animation in all its glory, and it shows off what you can do. So it can be as simple as a walk cycle or a quad walk cycle, a bouncing ball, and a performance animation, and that's it. I've hired people on projects for less work than that when they've done them very, very well. A walk cycle pretty much is one of the hardest things to do in animation. It's hardest things to do well because it uses so many of the principles of animation. Just something to be aware of. This happens every year, but we do not do 2D animation. We are a 3D animation pipeline. That means it is only in Maya. It's only 3D. Sometimes there are some 2D elements up in art department, but we do not do 2D animation in this course. There's a lot of great free characters online. There's free biped characters, there's free kind of quadruped characters, ball rigs, all that kind of stuff that you can use. And there's so much available out there. It doesn't have to be lit. It doesn't have to be rendered or surfaced. It can just be a grayscale play blast. So here's some example, a simple squirrel rig doing a bounce, a ball drop, a performance piece. A performance piece can just be 3 or 4 seconds. It doesn't have to be a whole short film. Just simple things to show what you can do and that your intent is getting across. At the beginning of the project, we do these fun things called performance tests. It's a way of getting a sense of how the character is going to act and move. It's a lot of fun. If you do get an animation, you get a chance to be in pre-production, go for it because it's a super fun part of the process. So here's an example of blocking. So blocking is very simple poses. We're just doing the key poses for the shot, maybe 5 or 6 poses just to get the intent and the timing. And a big part of animation is being able to convey and communicate your intent very quickly, because then after blocking comes animation. And then the secondary, the overlap, the follow through comes through in the anim. And again, animation is generally grayscale. It's done very simply, just so we can get across the intent of the shot. Anim in Studio 2 also works with the mocap. Our animators love to get dressed up in the suit because they are frustrated actors generally, because we get them filming themselves to do the performance pieces. It's a lot of fun. Doing cleanup on mocap is a big part of the process too, but there'll always be animation to go over the top of it. So it's never just cleanup. It's always animating over the top of mocap as well. And reference, being able to follow reference. We had the guys from the UTS Kendo Association last year come in and demonstrate how to do correct fighting with a katana. It was a lot of fun. because our first pass on animating the fight cycle for Aniko was terrible, so we had to get some professional help. All right, I'm going to keep moving quickly because we've got a few more departments to get through, then I want to be able to answer your questions. Next is effects, or VFX. The difference between effects and VFX is the live action plate. So when you've got an explosion and everything on the screen is digital, it's effects. And basically the simplest kind of definition is if you take that explosion, you put it over the top of a live action plate, it becomes VFX. I don't know the history of that. Maybe we can find that online, but that's generally the industry vernacular. What to include in your portfolio, any procedural modeling that you've done is always great. Any particle simulations, rigid body, fluid sims, and character effects. Back in the day, effects used to just be sort of sims, explosions, dust, water, fire, that kind of stuff. Nowadays, effects has kind of almost changed its name to the Houdini department because it can do so much. It's environment design, environment modeling, char effects. Wow, what else? Cloth and hair and explosions, of course, as well. But there's just so much now that effects does and covers. Even lighting is now done in lighting, and surfacing can be done in Houdini as well. So it's a really, really big part of the process. This is one area where you have to know the software. Okay, we will teach a bit of the software, the advanced parts of it, but knowing this software is integral to being in the effects department, which is Houdini. Hey, Byron, are you still doing Houdini, by the way? You still doing that on the side?
I am not doing it on the side, but I have to look at it often as a TA.
Oh, you do?
Okay. Well, I don't like touch it very often, but as a lighting TA, a lot of the problems come from Houdini, and it's about finding out how it's broken or who broke it, and then telling them to look at their script and fix it.
Okay, that's cool. Well, we're actually this year for the first time ever, because we've got our fantastic lead Rowan has joined us, and he comes from an amazing background of VFX. We're rendering both projects this year in Solaris, so we're in Houdini all the way through the pipeline. It's super fun part of the process. But as you can imagine, Byron, we might need someone with your skills because we're breaking a lot of stuff as well as we go through.
I think we do a lot of surfacing comes out of Houdini as well.
Oh, great. Yeah. Wow, it's really just moving across to that. It's just becoming, the master software, isn't it?
Yeah, it does everything.
It does everything. I mean, animation, we still have animation. I'm happy to say we still got Anim.
Houdini might be coming for Anim too. I don't know.
I've seen it. I don't believe it yet. I'll be, you're going to have to really convince me for that one. So some examples, some particle, dust, other kind of, particle systems, always good to see. Cloth systems as well. Houdini covers, char effects and cloth and muscle too. Here's a great breakdown of some Houdini effects on Aniko from last year. Snow was a big part of the show, and so was this stylized kind of smoke that we did, because we wanted to have that real sort of stylized blue-eyed samurai kind of look. Although everything was done in 3D, there was a lot of work in to make it look like it was 2D. Oh, this was cool. That lighting effect was awesome. Yeah, water is a big one as well. But then having water that looks like it's 2D, blood effects as well. Yeah, it was really like the first pass of everything, because doing sort of realistic looking water and smoke is actually, easier in Houdini than it is to do this kind of stylized look. So it took a lot of work to push into that direction. I'm just going to get to the part. I think there's a part here where, this was super fun to do this kind of particle effect of the breaking up stone. It was great. Yeah, super cool. All right, which brings us to lighting. So lighting is where we bring together all of these assets, everything from every department, the camera from layout, the animation from animation, the surfacing, the layout, the modeling, the set for modeling and assembly is all built, and it all comes together for the first time in lighting. So lighting brings together all these assets. They are colored, but there's no lights there, and they bring the show to life by adding light, texture, emotion, mood to the film. And this is where it's rendered, and this is where we see the film rendered and lit for the first time. So once again, what to include here is showing us what you can do. So it's about intent. It's showing us your lighting skills, but software does not matter. Okay, this is one area where we can see your lighting skills in Blender, Maya, Unreal, if you like. It doesn't have to be Katana, Render, and Solaris, Houdini. It can be any other software because we can teach you the software. Knowing a bit of RenderMan or Houdini does help a lot, mind you, but that is something that we can teach you when you're here. It's more important to see that you have an eye for lighting. Lighting suits people, again, who like photography, who like cinematography and film, who understand the mood and tone of a show and how light can really change that quite dramatically, actually. So seeing what you can do with an asset or a room or environment at day or night or natural, showing us something that's stylized or something that's moody or realistic really goes a long way. But yeah, the software, again, whatever you're familiar with, it's more important that we see your intent rather than showing us something that isn't lit that well because you've just tried to do a tutorial. If you have done a tutorial, by the way, this also goes for the effects team. Something that I know that the leads here really kind of hammer on about is if you are providing us with something you've made from a tutorial, please make it your own. Please do something a bit different, add to it, change something just to show us that you can go above and beyond what's just been fed to you. So here are some examples. Art department will create what's called a color key, which is a rough version of the light and the mood and the tone of the shot. So we can go through a few iterations of this where it's effectively cheap, it's fast. Once that's done, lighting department is given a surfaced environment, and then they create what you see here on the bottom right-hand corner, their version of what the color key was. It's a really, really fun part of the process. Again, it's for the people who are, creative and a bit technical as well. But there's so much storytelling that can happen in the lighting process. It's really a lot of fun. Here are some lighting shots from Onico last year. We really wanted to push the lighting in this because it was at nighttime, but then we needed moments where it was warm night, cool light, dark night. We had this red lightning. So even though it was all happening at the sort of effectively the same time, we needed to change the tone and the mood of the environment to suit what was happening in the scene. So much fun. Yeah, it was great. Understanding the basics of light really does help. Again, I know Rowan here will teach everyone everything about it, but understanding what, the different key lights do, rim light, bounce light, fill light, and so on is a big help. Having at least a cursory glance at some of the books or out there like the 5 C's of cinematography. I think there's another one called The Lighter's Friend or something. Rowan, if you can hear me, if you can just type some examples of books in the chat, that would be great. But just having an understanding of the basics will go a long way. Here's some more shots from lighting as well. And again, you can see how much the mood changes in the shot, in the scene, depending on the tone of the light. Is it cool? Is it cold? Is it warm? And so on. The lighters also, of course, do a lot in the Studio 2 project, but lighting for VFX is very different than lighting for CG. So in CG here, in Animate Feature, we get complete 100% control of the environment, the tone, and the color. But in VFX, you are at the mercy of what was shot on the day. So you have to match the assets to the light that's in the environment, which is a whole separate skill set. Again, a lot of fun. Again, you've got some creative control, but matching that light there is a different part of the industry. Here's a few more from our Studio 2 project. And comp. So comp is effectively the end of the pipeline. This is where all those layers from lighting come together. and are graded and layered up together to make everything really look beautiful, basically. If you imagine, those of you who know how to use Photoshop, imagine it with layers on top of each other. Imagine Photoshop with a timeline is generally compositing. The industry standard for comp is Nuke, right? So yes, there are courses out there, and there was ways of transferring After Effects skills into Nuke. If you can only use After Effects, that's absolutely fine. Show us what you can do. It would be great to see any full CG shots you've comped, or any assets over a live action shot that you've comped as well. It can be in After Effects, but ideally it would be great if you can do this in Nuke. If you are doing a tutorial on Nuke, again, show us if you can do something a little bit different. Maybe shoot your own stuff and provide a CG asset over the top of it. And then it'd be also good to see something that's, fully digital as well. So any matte painting setups you've done, any digital set replacement that you can do, background replacement and so on, any of that kind of motion graphic stuff is great. So if you can, show us a breakdown of layering in your shots, go through the different layers there, foreground, midground, background. So it gives us an insight on how you plan your compositing as well. And then, yes, we use Nuke, but again, any other software, Fusion, Natural, Blender, After Effects as well can be used. Just again, like we said for surfacing, just show us your intent so we understand that you've got an understanding and idea of how comp works, and show us a bit of your creative eye as well. So here's some examples from Oniko. As you can see, we started off this part of the process was us exploring how light was going to work in the show, how flat it was going to be, how much depth there was. It was a really, really big part of the exploration process. Actually, I'm just going to go back here. Hey, Byron, can you give us an example, I guess, what you think is possible? Like, what are you covering, or what do you see as a lighting TA? What sort of areas are you working on?
I'm mainly looking at issues of when parts are broken, or I'd say sometimes we look at comp as a lighting TA. I have been asked to do paint fixes as a TA, because not always can we just send something back. Sometimes there's not enough time. So it's good for comp, if you know how to do paint fixes and stuff like that as well.
Yep.
Okay.
That's cool. And what software are you mostly working in?
I mostly look at Nuke and Filament. Well, Filament for lighting, and then Nuke for comp.
Okay, great.
I think Filament is NAS's home
that's right.
proprietary.
Yeah,
lighting.
But you're still using Nuke for the main part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All our comping and lights go to Nuke.
Yep.
And our lighters do a lot of comp as well.
Okay, great. Yeah, generally in animated feature, lighters will comp their own shots. In VFX, comp is a separate department. So it's good to know that if you are going into a company like Netflix as a lighter, you will be comping your own shots. Here's an example of how these kind of layers will layer up in Nuke, and some other things that you can do in comp as well. Lens distortion, glow, lens flares, depth of field, all these things add together to make these shots look beautiful. That phrase, fix it in comp, is there for a reason, because a lot can be done, but we don't want them to do everything. We try and help them out as much as possible. Same thing goes for cleanup on raw plates, adding digital set replacement, cleaning up elements that are in the way of the show. There's so many areas comp can work in, and again, it transfers between animated feature, VFX, and commercials. Now, I'm just going to have to go through, because we've got about 5 or 6 minutes left, and I want to get to some questions if anyone has any. The last department here are TDs. There is a desperate need for TDs in industry. If you have done a comp sci degree, please come and join us and let us know. Or if you know anyone who has done one and they don't want to go into being in IT, there's a huge need for TDs in industry. They might not know that they can have a career working on movies instead of working in a bank. What we need, the industry standard here again, is Python. but knowing a bit of C++ helps a lot as well. What we need to see is basically a GitHub repository of your work, any examples, any tools you've written. TDs work with pretty much every department, from pipeline through to department TDs, writing tools for, say, this one here for animation, where a tool was written to help us do an automatic roll on the wheels of the character, which is super cool. There was another one here about renaming modeling assets, doing recolors, writing tools, doing a camera shake script as well. All these really fun things that can happen that artists need on the floor. A department TD will write for them, scripts for them on the fly. There was another geometry object merge tool here, was it? I think I can't remember what that one was, but it was a tool that was just really needed in Houdini that the Anim TD that the TDs created for them. So if you love programming and but you want to be still part of the animated pipeline, there's a big need at the moment for TDs. I think TDs are probably our most hired department out there.
Yeah, I remember Eric, our TD from last year. Everyone else had to apply for jobs, but like 5 companies reached out to him.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so everyone, questions. There are. I'm just going to see if I can see the chat window for questions. I'm not sure if that's a Q&A box. Q&A box. I'm not seeing a Q&A box, unfortunately. Why is that not showing up for me? Hold on one second, everyone, because I know there's a few questions out there and we will get to it. Not chat, more, click more. Okay, here we go. Thank you very much, Sarah. Subtitle settings, camera, no, screen. Oh, why is this all hidden? Sorry, everyone. This is not working for me at all. Subtitle settings, bottom camera. Hey, Byron, can you see the Q&A box by any chance?
Yeah. I had the chat up. I didn't realize the QA box was a separate thing.
Okay, would you be able to ask me, could you ask me questions that you've seen, any at the top that are unanswered, and I can answer them for everyone here. We've got a couple of minutes we can do some Q&As for. All right. Oh, actually, sorry, Sarah's forwarded them through now. So I'll get these two and let me know if there's any others I've missed. So here's one. I wanted to ask if I would still be eligible for the master's program if I'm currently in my final semester studying communications at UTS. For the production coordinator stream, specifically for the master's, I love animation. My career goal would be to be in production. Fantastic. Especially doing a communications degree is an excellent background for production. I do know a few people in production who went through communications. It's a great way to get into this part of the industry. Look, you are eligible as long as you've finished. We are a master's degree. New South Wales or Australian education rules changed quite recently in that in order to study a master's, you have to have done a BA beforehand. If you have done a diploma or an advanced diploma, you can enter our course and to do the graduate certificate. The graduate certificate is basically Studio 1 of our course. There are ways of articulating up into a master's after the grad cert, and you can see a little bit more about that online. But generally, yes, you're applicable, but you need to have done that degree. If you want any more information about that, you can always reach out and ask us. Okay, does Animal Logic Academy provide career support or help graduates connect with studios and find jobs in the VFX, animation, or games industries? Great question, and yes, we do. Just to be clear, we don't have a placement program, okay? So we're not offering, there's no sort of automatic roll through to Netflix, even though Byron here got a job at Netflix. He was amazing and did well, but if you're amazing and do well as well, you'll get a job. What we do, though, is in Studio 3, we go through a very, very stringent process of helping all of our students with all the parts of applying for a job. So we work with them on getting their LinkedIn ready, their cover letter, their CV, their portfolio, their reel. make sure we tailor them to what industry standard is, because believe it or not, a lot of people fail at that part of the process. They might apply for a job and it doesn't even get seen by the lead or supervisors because they're not hitting the sort of standards that are needed for industry in those areas. Once that's done, we get people from ILM, Animal Lodge, Netflix, Flying Buck, other studios from HR, artist management, and production to come and talk to our students about what they're looking for, how to apply. We take our students through a test interview process as well, so they can relax and understand what's going to happen on the day when they do get an interview in the future. And then throughout the end of the year, we have lots of recruitment sessions where we get industry to come in to speak to our students, come and see what they're working on. And then there's the end of year showcase where we get about 100 people from industry come to see the students' work. At the end of the students, then there's a socializing component, networking component, where they can speak to the people who've come and show them their reel as well. So that's really a big part of what we bring to, is because we have such a strong connection with industry. Industry absolutely loves our graduates. And so they really kind of get in here as quickly as possible because they want to get the pick of the students as soon as they can. Okay, so here we go. Hi guys, from Addison Ross. Hi guys, was previously a member of the 2024 cohort, but had to leave for personal reasons, I remember, but was looking at potentially applying again. Was wondering if the level of competition for applications has increased or stayed mostly the same for various departments. Look, I would like to say it stayed the same, but we're getting some pretty good, pretty good applicants at the moment. But I remember your work. I think you'll be more than good enough to apply again with what you had. But I tell you what would be good to see. It'd be good to see what you've done in the meantime. So it's always, for anyone who's applying, it's always great to see that if someone has a gap in their work or gap since I haven't studied in 2 years. It's nice to see that people are still working on their skills when they have downtime, because you kind of, if you're not swimming, you're sinking, right? So people have to keep maintaining, keep seeing what's out there. Nowadays, there's advances in technology almost every week. So show us what you've been doing in the meantime. Additionally, will AI tools or AI-assisted workflows be taught or incorporated into the master's program, particularly for surfacing, texturing, or modeling? Look, AI, that's a really big one. And just so you know, yes, we're looking at AI constantly here. It's a big part of what we do. But so far, no one's lost their job. That line still holds true, that you're not going to lose your job to AI. You're going to lose your job to someone who knows how to use AI. AI is simply a tool. We still need all of these departments. There still needs to be a modeling department. There still needs to be an animation department. There still needs to be a surfacing department, and so on. But there are tools now emerging that are helping those people do the boring part of their job. The big example that we can point to in modeling is retopology. There's some great retopology tools. So, a modeling artist might want to kind of create a sculpt and then use some retopology tools to do the retopo that used to have to be done manually. But even then, none of the tools can match the proper edge flow that's needed for industry, especially for face animation or deformations. So there's tools there that can help people get part of the way through it, but it can't finish and it can't be directed the same way. So yes, we're constantly looking at AI, but there are people out there who are spending millions on this and still no one's losing their job. So far, it's helping people do the boring parts of their job faster. But yes, we will be looking at that constantly into the future and making sure that our students are up to speed and adept at using AI. In these projects, are they most of the time silent films instead of Onico, which has voice acting? Generally, yes, and that is not a creative choice. It's a technical choice. Because if you have dialogue on a film, you have to record the dialogue first before animation starts. You then also need a face rig that is good enough for lip sync and so on. So we have to get, a lot of the story process happens on the fly during storyboard and previs. Getting dialogue recorded before that can often be a difficult part of the process. So we do this to make things work faster. And also, if it's silent or if there's just ADR, grunts and breathing and laughs, it makes our films more international as well and easy to, simple visual storytelling is actually quite hard to do. And when it's done well, it's magic. And the last one here Is the new Animalogic Academy Intro to Houdini course a sufficient level of skill with Houdini to apply to the Masters? Yes, it is, absolutely. If you've done the Intro to Houdini course, you will know more than enough in order to get up to speed, because what we do in Studio One for the effects artists is start sort of prototyping and testing the effects that we know that we're going to need for the film. So, for example, in Onico, we knew up front that we needed stylized snow, we needed stylized smoke, we needed explosions, we needed some blood effects. So these were the kind of things that the effects department explored in Studio One with RAF. And it was, a big part of learning the tools and the software as well. And there's a few more. All right. Sarah, do we have time? I'm hoping so. All right. I'm just going to get through a few more questions here. Okay. Are there any community events that you encourage people to go to regarding 3D animation VFX? There's quite a few, actually. Rowan, if you're still there, if you type in some of them, but there's the animation one. I'm blanking on them because I'm on the spot. But there are quite a lot of open industry events available to the public or interested people or juniors that are aimed at helping people network with industry professionals. More often than not, because there's not much money behind them, they're happening at pubs and stuff around Sydney. But if you kind of do searches for them out there, you'll find them. And it's a great way to get to meet people and to get to see what's happening in the industry. I highly recommend looking for these on LinkedIn. Just a general note for everyone, LinkedIn is not social media. Please make sure you're touching lightly on LinkedIn and you're maintaining a professional work profile on LinkedIn. But if you join some of the these sort of places on LinkedIn, they post community events and industry events on them all the time. If deciding between honours or masters UTS, what are the main differences, outcomes, trying to figure out what is best? Look, they're different. They're both fantastic. Both the honours and the masters will provide you with a path towards doing what you want in the industry. I would say that we might be a little bit more process driven in terms of aiming our students to get jobs at the biggest studios. The honours might be a little bit more towards becoming an auteur, having more creative control over your vision and the story and so on. But there is definitely crossover between those two. I suggest downloading the info pack for both of them and getting a bit more detail than I can give you now in terms of seeing what maybe suits your direction and your career path. Is it okay to apply to an entry-level animation TA position with just 3D animation? I did that recently. But I did mention in my resume I'm learning Python coding. Look, there's anim TAs in different places do have different skill sets and different needs. I know Flying Buck recently is asking for people anim TAs, and basically an anim TA needs to have a decent understanding of basic animation, but also technical skills too, because they could be covering everything from applying char effects to helping assemble a shot to fixing animation glitches and so on. So yes, having basic animation skills as an anim TA is more than enough. Okay, I think I hit all the questions. Awesome. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm just going to jump to the next slide because here is the info pack. So like I said earlier on, if you do want to download this info pack, it is there for you online. I'll get someone, Sarah, could you please post that link to the chat so they've got it, people can copy and paste that. There's more there of what I've spoken about today for everyone if you want to go through it in a bit more detail and how to apply. Also, you can book a consultation call. If you're worried about what you're doing, you're unsure what department to get into, you're unsure whether or not you've got the right skills, portfolio, software, and you need a little bit more help there, you can book an online one-on-one call with one of us. It's like a 15-minute chat over Zoom. If you do want to do that, please send an email to the email address here, and we can organize that for you. Sarah, I'm guessing, is posting that to the chat as well, so you've got access to that online. All right, so follow us on our socials. You can find our website there, but we're on LinkedIn. That we post a lot of stuff to YouTube as well. All our past projects are on the YouTube if you want to see what our students have been doing in the past. But everything is there, and you can stay in touch with us through all that as well. And thank you very much, everyone, for joining us. If you do have any other questions, please reach out. And it's been a pleasure talking to you all tonight. All the best, and hopefully see some or a lot of you here next year. Cheers.